For millennia, it was just a story, a myth whispered in the dark, told by desperate survivors of an age we refuse to remember. But what if the greatest legend of all, the Great Flood, wasn't a legend at all? What if it was a horrifying truth? This Halloween, we're not hunting ghosts, we're hunting memory, the haunted echo of a world violently destroyed. Mainstream science calls it myth, but across every continent, the stories align. From Sumerian tablets to forgotten Amazonian tribes. A single event, the Great Flood, a cosmic impact, a world drowned and rebuilt. Could these myths be collective memory of something real? Oceans rose, continents burned, civilization erased. This wasn't nature's wrath. It was extinction, because this flood didn't just wash away primitive tribes. It buried an entire empire, a global hyper-advanced civilization lost beneath the waves. We call it the First World Empire. But not everyone perished. Some survived. The early human warriors, and they remembered. They fought to preserve the truth of what destroyed their world. So ask yourself, what if the flood wasn't an accident? What if it was a war?
Keep climbing, quickly! Grab my hand. It's rising too fast.
After the flood, when humanity was supposed to be primitive, something impossible rose from the mud. Göbekli Tepe. Who built these megaliths? And how did survivors of a cataclysm suddenly gain such advanced knowledge? The warriors, our ancestors, found these sites, not crude shelters, but monuments to a forgotten science. Whose knowledge was it? The legends speak of gods who came from the sea, wisdom bringers who taught the survivors the secrets of the sky. But in the stories of Southeast Asia, these gods weren't saviors. They were titans, rulers of the sky, and perhaps the true architects of our first civilization. They guarded the old world's secrets. The Yaksha, demonic entities of immense power, both protectors and destroyers. The ancients warned these gods were not to be worshipped, but feared. Were they spirits or something else? Deep in the caves, warriors uncovered the stories of the Naga, serpent gods who ruled the rivers and the rain. Across cultures, the same beings appear, not as myths, but as a single, powerful aquatic race. The tales speak of a war between these gods, for the sky, the sea, and the earth. What if that war wasn't myth, but memory? Then came the Kinari, ethereal beings of the forest, allies or watchers, agents of an ancient empire? Garuda, Yaksha, Naga, Kinari, immortal in legend, non-human pre-flood. So what if they weren't gods at all, but bioengineered enforcers of a forgotten world? The warriors believed the legends, but the truth was far more terrifying. The Titans were real, and they were waiting. The ancestors fought them, and now, the warriors must learn how their ancestors survived. To understand the future, they must uncover a past that refuses to die. The ruins whisper of a darker truth. Were the Titans enemies, or weapons in a war beyond human understanding? The ruins were not empty. The gods of the First Empire left behind their sentinels, and here in these haunted lands, the warriors learned their first brutal lesson. Never trust the myths. Never hunt the gods in their own domain. The flood didn't just drown the land. It unleashed what was hiding beneath it, the true titans of the deep. Forget what you know about evolution. Every legend of sea dragons from every culture may have been describing real creatures, apex predators from a time before time. For the warriors, these weren't fossils. They were nightmares, alive and hunting. The flood had freed them into a new world. The narwhal, the unicorn of the sea, a tusk like a weapon, or perhaps a tool of unknown design. The manatee, mistaken for mermaids. But what if the first mermaids were something else? A branch of humanity adapted to the sea. And then, the kraken. No myth, just the deep defending its domain. These weren't just beasts. They were ancient, intelligent, and hungry. Their old world was gone. We were the new food. So the warriors adapted. They learned to hunt. From the shore, they took the symbols of fear and turned them into symbols of power. They wore the teeth of sea dragons. They used the hide of the naga. They became the new apex predators. But victory came at a terrible cost. The oceans became a forbidden zone, a place of monsters and memory. We've mapped Mars better than our own seas. Maybe we can't explore it, or maybe we're afraid of what's still down there. What if the gods of the First Empire didn't just leave ruins, but guardians, sleeping sentinels, waiting for a signal to rise again? The ancestors left one warning: do not wake the deep.
This darkness here, where the kraken sleeps, this is the deepest part. You must warn them.
I will, Father.
And what of the mermaids? Were they just peaceful manatees? Or were they the communicators?
Destroy them! We take back what is ours!
But how did it all end? Why did the comet strike? Science calls it an accident. The myths call it a reckoning, a war. This is the story our ancestors tried to tell. The Great Rebellion, humanity's uprising against their creators, the gods of the First World Empire. For generations, humans were slaves, servants of beings who ruled the skies, the land and the seas. But one day, they woke up, they fought back. The Yaksha, bred for war, crushed the rebellion with brutal force. The Garuda ruled the skies, striking with divine precision. The Naga controlled the waterways, turning rivers into killing fields. The gods unleashed their beasts, the Sinka and Kochasi, living tanks of muscle and rage, and then their ultimate weapon, the Titanoboa, a relic from a forgotten age. The gods didn't see a war. They saw pest control, but humanity endured. They learned to fight monsters and win. The rebellion turned, and the empire began to fall. So the gods made a choice, a final, catastrophic choice. If they couldn't rule the world, no one would. The comet wasn't random, it was summoned. A weapon, pulled from the heavens, a scorched earth reset. In that moment, gods and humans alike looked up and saw their end. The first impact didn't drown the world, it boiled it. Continents turned to flame, titans were vaporized, and from the ashes came the flood. The world of the First Empire was gone, wiped clean, not by nature, but by the wrath of its makers.
Destroy the beasts!
The world was silent, drowned. A blank slate, washed clean by fire and water. The first empire had destroyed itself, but they failed. Humanity survived. On the highest peaks in crude arcs, the warriors, our ancestors, endured. Then others emerged, the so-called wisdom bringers, Wands, Viracocha, and the gods who rose from the sea. Were they divine or survivors of the fallen empire, their power lost, trading knowledge for survival? The warriors remembered the war. They didn't bow, they rebuilt. And from the ashes, a new symbol was born, the phoenix, life reborn from fire, humanity rising from its own apocalypse. They trained, they prepared. They knew the gods, or their creations, might one day return. They became the planet's new guardians, not by divine right, but by blood and will. Göbekli Tepe? Was it a temple built by gods, or a warning built by survivors? These primitive humans weren't primitive at all. They were engineers of renewal, using fragments of a fallen world. Civilization didn't crawl from the mud. It rose from the ruins, a desperate rebuilding of what once was. But what of the gods who survived? Did they vanish or hide? Their monuments still mark the earth, aligned to the stars, a network that may still be alive. Maybe the gods didn't die. Maybe they live on in us, in hidden bloodlines, in the instinct to build, to conquer, to reach for the stars. The flood erased their world, but not their memory. And their final message to us still whispers through time. Watch the skies. The old world may yet return.
The struggle between the Garuda and the Naga is eternal in Thai mythology.
This Halloween, the story isn't about a haunted house. It's about a haunted planet, a world built on the graveyard of an empire that may not be dead. We call it mythology. We call it legend. But what if? Its memory? a genetic echo of a war that never truly ended, a warning written in our blood. The flood wasn't salvation. It was a failed execution. The gods were a failed empire, and the warriors, our ancestors, never stopped fighting. Because the myths are real, the Titans are real. They didn't die. They slept. And now, after 12,000 years, they're waking up. Strange lights in the skies, unexplained sounds from the deep. Are these anomalies, or the first stirrings of the Titans returning to claim their world? Their technology was beyond comprehension. Their biology is engineered. The Yaksha, Garuda, and Naga, not legends, but living weapons. Are we, unknowingly, reawakening them through our science, our digging, our arrogance? We search the stars for aliens. But what if the gods never left Earth? What if they've been here, hidden, all along? Our ancestors remembered. They taught us to watch the skies and to fear the cracks in reality where the old world bleeds through. Because some gates are opening again, in the oceans. The truth still breathes. The kraken, the sea dragons, the unicorn of the sea, the narwhal. Are these myths? Or the remnants of ancient bioweapons, still alive, still watching? The First Empire's knowledge didn't vanish. It was buried. In ruins, in bloodlines, in secret societies. Are they protecting humanity? Or preparing for the gods' return? The phoenix rose from the ashes of the last world. Now as our own civilization burns hotter, is its appearance a promise of rebirth? Or a warning of another fire to come? The warriors, our bloodline, never forgot. They are the planet's immune system. The last defense against the Titans, against those who would wake the old gods again. This is the Shadow War, fought in our jungles, in our oceans, and beneath our feet. A war as old as the flood. The gods had power, but humanity had something they could never defeat. The spirit of the phoenix. The courage to rise from the ashes, again and again. The flood was not the end. It was a warning. And this Halloween, the hunt is on. Share this. If you believe the myths are real, tell us, which Titan do you think survived? Because he is not alone. The bloodline of the warriors still walks among us, a silent network, humanity's hidden immune system. The gods never left. Some went underground, some assimilated. They're in our oceans, our skies, our cities. They're here, and we've just forgotten how to see them. The First Empire thought we were weak, but the warrior spirit is eternal.
Real